Neptunia is a franchise I have a mixed history with, especially in recent years. So with the release of Neptunia Sister vs. Sisters, I expected more of this sparse quality. Instead, however, I was stunned to experience one of these series' best outings, being the strongest game since Mega Dimension Neptunia V2.
Oh, she passed out.
Bert?
This is bad. I sense someone nearby. They might have a big misunderstanding of what just happened if they see this.
Is it okay for us to leave Bert like this?
Just leave it to the Basilicom members.
For those unaware of how this franchise's world game industry operates, there are 4 primary nations: Low, Lastation, Leanbox, and Planeptune, each not so subtly representing a gaming company in our real life. Planeptune is the most out there as its reimagined version of Sega, while the others are expectedly Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox, respectively. Additionally, the leaders of these nations are goddess CPUs, who, except for the CPU of Leanbox, each have sisters called CPU candidates. Nepgear, the sister of Planeptune's CPU, is the protagonist of this venture, making her the first focus entry since Hyperdimension Neptunia MK2. After the introductory events comprising the CPUs being sent off to investigate a mysterious occurrence in a PC continent, Nepgear and the other CPU candidates find themselves entering a 2-year sleep and waking up in a completely changed world. Neptune has vanished, and the world is in intense disarray. The citizens of the various nations have become shut-ins, living their day-to-day via their phones. Monster attacks dubbed trendy attacks are common, and faith in the goddesses have drastically plummeted. As a result, Nepgear and the other CPU candidates, ROM, RAM, and Uni, pick up the slack of the remaining CPUs in an effort to bring the world back to its former state. New friends Mayo and Henri play substantial roles in this work, quickly becoming close friends with Nepgear. While this may be difficult to believe, especially for newcomers to the series who haven't followed it for long, the narrative in this entry is fantastic. The pacing takes things slow in the first half, but picks up significantly in later parts, boasting high stakes with character growth and interactions that is in line with the rest of the franchise. Discussion of the story requires delving into spoiler-related materials, so I'll refrain. What I can say, though, is that those familiar with older titles will have a field day here, as there are callbacks and plot points that can only be fully represented if one has seen certain events in Hyperdimension Neptunia MK2, or Rebirth 2. Unlike the recent spin-offs, the new entry feels like a direct continuation of the previous games, helping create a progression and not simply a self-contained venture. Further, the tone here solidly struck balance of grave seriousness and wacky hijinks, characteristics of the IP's identity. The main story itself has its fair dosage of banter that you would expect from the returning cast, and the new prominent characters blend in well, both narrative and dynamic-wise. Nepgear is a fantastic protagonist, contrasting with her lackadaisical older sister. In fact, I'd argue her focused presence is the catalyst for what makes this game's ambiance tenser, since the writing isn't primarily built around Neptune's sense of humor. And man, as absurd as that may sound for a Neptunia game, the normal and true endings had me smiling from ear to ear with bursting gratification. Regarding silliness, several optional sub-events contain clear references to developments in the real-world's game industry. For instance, there's a Pokemon Go parody called Pocketed Monstrosities, a joke centering around the negative reception of Shenmue 3, and even some usages of modern lingo that have sprouted following the brief time skip where the CPU candidates were in their deep sleep. Considering the context of game industry, these references obviously make sense, and they're embraced far more here than they have been in recent memory. Another case of this regards the growth of Low, the Nintendo parody nation, since it has developed hardware that is essentially just the Switch. In fact, censorship from Lastation, PlayStation, is brought up in one sub-event, with some citizens of that nation even yearning to move to Low as its standards aren't restricting certain games. I know I shouldn't stick to talking about references for too long, but my absolute favorite is how there's one supporting character named Higurashi who just acts like Rina from that series. She has her own dedicated scenes that hone in on her similarities to the source character. Anyway, it's evident that the scenes and characters of Neptunia Sisters vs. Sisters excels. being excellent in their own right, even without being compared to its predecessors. However, there are notable gameplay stumbles in place. The battles this time around can be seen as an action-fied version of the turn-based combat found in the Rebirth trilogy, and Mega Dimension V2. Encounters occur when interacting with an enemy symbol on the map, with primitive strikes possible if the foe is struck beforehand. Then, players use customized combos to fight, comprising power, rapid, and break attacks. Each has their own benefits, such as power being best for raw damage output and rapid prioritizing speed. Further, the characters can perform powerful techniques dubbed EXE drives that can help in a pinch, amplified by goddess transformations illustrated by Gage. A form of familiar synthesis is present as well, letting players craft discs that offer a range of benefits. Apparent strategy is emphasized by the characters having action points that run out as maneuvers are made in combat, so frequently switching between the three members in the field is necessary for fights pacing and flow to feel adequate. It definitely sounds like plenty is happening within these systems, but unfortunately, no actual thought or strategy is ever required. For as addictive as Sisters vs. Sisters combat and stat growth is, it's entirely mindless. Levels are gained humorously quickly, to the extent that doing the side content can smoothly max out your growth in little time. Still, I must emphasize how truly fun the combat feels. In a different manner than the Senran Kagura crossover game, strikes against foes provide satisfying impact, and the movement feels great, if a tad limited. Even when I maxed out the cast levels, I was yearning for an incentive to keep fighting because of how much I enjoyed progression. This easiness extends into the post-game content consisting of an arena and a 100-floor dungeon, where a few simple item usage negate any semblance of difficulty. The other two areas where Sister vs. Sister suffers are found in its presentation and map repetition. The latter should be no surprise given the series' extensive history with such a flaw, and to be fair, it's only prominently pronounced in the 100-floor dungeon, which is really just made up of random rooms from other maps in the game. However, there is a shocking exception to this map issue. At certain points in the story, Planet Neptune becomes explorable, and I have no idea why, but it's absolutely massive. You can actually walk around a pretty well-sized realized depiction of this nation, even given the meager graphical quality. Further, you can walk into some realistically designed buildings with multiple floors, as well as the rooms where Neptune and Nepgear presumably live and hang out. It still astounds me that such a map was implemented, and unless I'm forgetting a game, this is likely the first time such efforts have been made. If other nations were explorable to this level, that would be the dream. Granted, Planet Neptune does not make up for the map flaws seen throughout the rest of the title, but it impressed me and left me with faith for future projects. Sisters vs. Sisters also marks the first time in quite a while that an English dub has been added. Several familiar voice actresses have reprised their roles, and I felt pretty nostalgic in several points. The vocal delivery is phenomenal from both the returning cast and new members. Moreover, everyone's enunciation is stellar, and their personalities shine through remarkably well. Even if you're a player who tends to just stick with the Japanese version, I recommend playing the English dub, because it is really quite good. You should also have no worries about the text, as there were no typos I could recall or anything of the sort. Neptunia Sisters vs. Sisters does suffer from familiar series faults, notably its lackluster presentation and, save for Planet Neptune, an overabundance of recycled maps. Yet, even so, its gameplay systems are compelling, and both its characters and narrative writing are unironically exceptional, being near the cream of the crop of the franchise. Still, you have to be a veteran fan for particular points to hit their marks effectively. If you've been waiting on the Neptunia series recently, this one is worth picking up. While it doesn't necessarily redefine the series as we know it, its distinct strengths can be used as a building block for games to flourish consistently. Noisy Pixel is giving Neptunia Sisters vs. Sisters a 7.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Please read the full review on NoisyPixel.net. NoisyPixel is run by a group of gamers who work hard to deliver news, reviews, previews, and more. Please subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.